The film begins in a space museum where we get to see Major Olga trying to make her little nephew named Elio to eat something, but he doesn't respond to her. During this whole ordeal, we get to discover that Elio is in this sad phase because he lost his parents recently, and Olga has been taking care of Elio ever since. She finds it really hard to connect with other kids his age. After Olga greets her old-time colleague, she realizes Elio is nowhere to be found. On the other hand, Elio ends up in an exhibit for the Voyager 1. Just as he explores the whole facility, Elio becomes so fascinated by the wonders of outer space and the possibility that there is surely life outside of Earth. So as years pass by, we are meant to know that ever since that moment where Elio became fascinated by the wonder of the outer space, Elio became so obsessed to leaving Earth and meet aliens. He began to try different methods to reach out to them, hoping one day he will get abducted, but this made it really hard for his auntie to actually bond with him. Elio believes it is because she gave up her dreams of being an astronaut just to take care of him. So during his usual beach night out visits in order to get abducted by aliens, Elio comes across two other boys named Bryce and Caleb, who heard about Elio's fantasy. So while they both introduce themselves, Elio finally hears alien sounds from the radio, and just as he tries to understand in order to communicate with them, those two kids drag the radio from him, and he ended up destroying it, and in anger, Elio proceeds to land punches, thereby causing a serious fight which got him a bruised eye. Auntie Olga picks him from the hospital, and she is so pissed with Elio fighting on the beach and skipping school. So in order to keep a close eye on Elio, Auntie Olga later took Elio to work at her base. She is brought to meet with a scientist, Gunther Melmack, who thinks the computers have picked up a message from another planet after making contact with the Voyager. Olga doesn't believe a word he said, and even sends him back home, suspending him for 2 weeks. After which, she dismissed everyone for a break, and once they all leave the office, Elio came out of his hiding, and then sent a message hoping to join them in outer space. The message manages to send, but this in return shuts down power to the whole base. Elio, now in full joy, begins to pack all his important belongings to get himself ready for the alien arrival. Just as he did so, Auntie Olga gets so angry and yells out to stop. She informed him that aliens are not coming for him, and he is going out of control. She nearly lost her job because of him. Auntie Olga tells him that they need to try something different by moving him to a camp where he will meet new friends, but Elio believes she is just trying to get rid of him. Auntie Olga is really keen on Elio making at least a friend, but Elio tells her that he doesn't care about friends. He needs to meet aliens because there are 500 million habitable planet out there, and one of them will gotta want him because he believes his auntie obviously doesn't want him. The next morning, Auntie Olga drives Elio to the camp. She tells him she was also here when she was a kid, and even though he might not believe her, she assures that this place will be good for him. Immediately, Elio is approached by those bullies from earlier, and it turned out they also came in for camping. After that evening, Elio tries to keep in touch with the aliens, but suddenly he hears a voice. Apparently, the bullies were approaching his camp, so quickly, Elio decided to run away from them through the forest. Meanwhile, Olga is at work when all of a sudden, her computers begin to malfunction, until she receives a message stating, "Bring us your leader, please." Back to Elio, he finally gets caught by the bullies, and just as they try to beat him up, something mysterious begins to approach them. Before the time freezes as a portal in the sky opens, and begins to pull a really happy Elio inside. After a long travel, Elio is brought to a place known as the comm universe. It is in the outer space where the leaders from other planets come together and share knowledge from other worlds in the galaxy. He meets a liquid supercomputer called Zeros, who assists Elio communicate with the aliens, and handed him a disk to regulate his gravity and body temperature. After this was done, he then met with Ambassadors Questa, Helix, and Tegman, who welcome him to the comm universe after mistaking him for being the real leader of Earth, since they intercepted his message but assumed he sent the Voyager spacecraft himself. However, before he could clear things up, the other ambassadors must handle another candidate who wants to join the comm universe. His name is Lord Grian of the Hylarchian race. He is an aggressive and bloodthirsty tyrant, so the other ambassadors don't want to have anything to do with him. Immediately, Grian angrily informed them that if he can't be accepted to join the comm universe, he will take it by force. Because of this threat, the ambassadors want to run and hide. They plan to go to the end of the cosmos and turn off all the lights. They informed Elio that they will no longer be accepting a new member because of their current situation. It tells him to go back to Earth. So Elio gets flashes on the rough life he had on Earth. Instead of going back to such a life, Elio chooses to personally negotiate with Grian himself, which might help make him ambassador of Earth more quicker. After all Elio had said, the others accepted his request and sends Elio on the mission with the liquid computer. The liquid computer takes a flu from Elio's nose for a DNA sample, and then uses it to help him make a clone of himself. They are both fascinated by this, so the new Elio is sent back to Earth to fulfill Elio's role while he is out in space. Later on, Elio is given a universal user guide to assist him come up with negotiation strategies when communicating with Grian. After a short while, Elio is brought to the Hylarchian mothership where he meets in person with Grian. Elio sees how arrogant Grian is and how he kills weaker creatures for fun, and this was the exact reason why the comm universe doesn't want him to join them. So Elio, being smart, then informed Grian that if they don't want him, that doesn't mean there isn't someone in the universe that won't want a powerful being like him. However, after much convincing from Elio to negotiate with Grian, one of his men interrupts their talk, saying his son wants to see him. Grian tries to relate with Elio, thinking he is also a father like him. Grian complains how difficult it is to take care of kids, because his son has no concept of the importance of his word. Just then, Elio replies him that if his son is too hard to handle, he should just ship him off, but this gets Grian very angry, as he feels Elio is looking down on him for not being able to handle his own son. So in anger, Grian ends their negotiation and has his Elio imprisoned in his cell. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Auntie Olga is surprised to see that Elio is now more sociable after just one day at camp. She is really happy that her little nephew looks different in behavior. Back to the prison, Elio tries to escape, but as he did so, he came across Grian's son named Glorden, who looks like a huge worm. Elio noticed that Glorden is the opposite of his father because he is kind-hearted. He shows Elio his robot armor. At this exact moment, Elio realized that Grian isn't as powerful as he thinks, as it is just the armor he wears that makes him seem scary. Just then, an emergency alarm rang and Glorden noticed the whole guards looking for Elio, who escaped from prison. So he asked if Elio was an assassin, but Elio opens up to him that he is just a child who just got here, and now the universe are depending on him to rescue them from his father. Glorden agrees to help Elio and devise a very good plan. He plans to use Glorden as the bargaining chip. This means that he wants to act like he kidnapped Grian's son and use it to bargain with Grian to leave the comm-universe alone in exchange for his son. As they both try to find their way out of Grian's ship, a huge lava approached them, so Elio has to hide inside Glorden's mouth to save himself from lava. The two finally made it down safely back to the comm-universe and contact Grian. Just as Glorden plays along, Elio tells Grian that he will only hand over his son only when he agrees to withdraw his army from the comm-universe and never return. Elio tickles Glorden, but Grian assumed Elio is torturing his son, so he decided to give in to Elio's request and back off from the comm-universe, then prepares to go pick up Glorden. Since Glorden has never been to the comm-universe before, he began to feel very cold, so Elio helped him out. After which, Elio decided to show him how fun the place is, and the two really bonded together, while also doing a lot of crazy things together. Once they were both done, Grian finally arrived at the comm-universe to take back his son, while also doing in accordance to their plans. Unfortunately, Glorden admits to Elio that he doesn't want to go back. He cries because he doesn't get to play or have friends. He doesn't also want to be a war machine just like his father. Elio then comes up with a solution, which was to clone Glorden so that he can go back with Grian while the real Glorden stays with Elio. Later on, Elio hides Glorden inside a ship and takes the clone one to Grian. Back on Earth, Auntie Olga starts to bond with new Elio really well until she starts to notice he's a little too nice, like he even do the dishes. So later that evening, Olga smartly took one of his hair strands to run some tests, but what caught her off guard was when the hair started moving. Olga decided to sneak inside his room and peels back the eye patch, revealing other Elio only has one eye. The new Elio wakes up and proceeds to explain himself. On the other hand, just as the clone gets inside the carapace as he doesn't want his son to be vulnerable anymore, Grian keeps to his words to never return. Just as the clone started to leave the comm-universe with Grian, he becomes suspicious because he knew his son has never for once supported the idea of conquering planets and going to wars. Due to this, Grian realized that this is not his actual son. He melts the clone and becomes furious with Elio and the comm-universe. He then forced one of Ambassador to get inside Elio's head and bid to find where his real son is. Unfortunately for Elio, the Council of Leaders found out that Elio has been lying to them regarding him being the leader of Earth nor the leader of anything, and he is just a child. Anyways, when they go looking for the prince, Glorden accidentally turns his ship on and is sent to Earth. They open the portal to Earth to send Elio back, so while this was about to happen, Grian shows up very furious due to the fact he still hasn't found his son. He proceeds to have his soldiers hold the ambassadors captive and tear the place apart to look for Glorden. So during this, one of the ambassadors sends Elio back to Earth to save his life, although blaming him for the reason they got into the mess. Elio is washed to a shore, where he finds Olga and other Elio together. While he thinks that the clone has officially replaced him, Elio overhears Olga begging for their plan to work, as she is hoping to make contact for Elio to come back. Elio goes to meet his auntie and reveals himself, leading to a new reconciliation. Elio gets really emotional because he never realized that Olga really cared much about him. At that moment, they realize something serious happening in a military base. It is revealed to be where Glorden's ship crash-landed. Olga rushes Elio and the clone there, and other Elio creates a distraction by dissolving himself, thereby giving Elio and Olga an opportunity to get inside. Meanwhile, Glorden is now beginning to get weaker from hypothermia due to his body not adjusting to Earth's temperature. Just as they got caught by the security, the two activate the ship and then head off into space. Sadly, they discover that they are in serious trouble, given the fact the ship cannot go into hyperspeed because they are heading towards a debris belt. Elio manages to call one of his bully Bryce through a radio. To Elio's surprise, Bryce feels really sorry for what happened earlier, so Elio forgives him and admits he was wrong too. He quickly asks for assistance in maneuvering past the debris, which leads to Bryce getting in touch with Melmac to help guide Elio and Olga. While they are both at it, they nearly destroy their shields, but they manage to get through it and reach a safe point to go into hyperspeed. The ship crashes into the comm universe, and Elio and Olga quickly take Glorden to Grigan's side. So in an emotional way, after seeing his dying son, Grigan pulls out his armor to reveal his regular wormy form. He wraps Glorden in webs and swaddles him, which helped Glorden wake up. When Glorden gained consciousness, Grigan asks Elio and his son to explain themselves. So Glorden finally admits to Grigan that he doesn't want to be a war machine, but Grigan reveals he already knows, and although he may not understand him, but one thing is for sure, Glorden is still his son and he still really loves him. Afterwards, the Council of Leaders handed Elio his badge to join them. Even though he lied to them, he had sacrificed himself for another, which shows the potentials of a leader in him. Elio is so happy, although Olga isn't happy in this moment, as it means Elio won't return back with her. So Elio noticed her sadness and returns their badge back to them. He adds that this place is amazing, but Earth is also amazing too. Elio explained further that he didn't give Earth a chance, but now he wants to try. He tells them this is a goodbye, but not yet. The communiverse brings Elio and Olga back to Earth. Everyone witnesses the ship arriving, while Elio and Olga watch it leave together. The movie then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more recap like this. Thanks for watching and goodbye.